Be strong.
This is Spiritual Fine Arts. I am Dr. David Glover. I'm so glad to be here with you. Today, we just want to have a conversation. Excuse me, a little dry. Should have brought some water. But we want to be able to discuss several different ways that we could play to our strengths. We just want to have a conversation, a reminder, or it may be discovery. And I always, as I say every week or every time I'm on here, every discussion that I have, that we both are learning together. We all are learning together, both teacher or facilitator and those who are listening, who are actively here. So just want to make sure that you know that I want you to be able to be engaging with me, to be able to dialogue with me, to tell me you may not agree with everything, and you should not agree because you have your own mind. You should be able to even see a different perspective, see it from your vantage view, your vantage point. So don't ever let anybody silence your voice. Don't let anybody take that away. Now, we want to be respectful. We want to be, all those things. But we are here to engage, to talk, to have some dialogue about playing to your strengths. And this is very important in today's time. With all that's happening around us, all of the competition, all of the people who are even aligned with us, we want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward, that we're presenting our best selves. Because now, knowing, number one, that who we're going to be, who we're going to evolve into, has not yet been presented. But you'll never get to that person if you don't start presenting it now. It's kind of like a conundrum. It's like it's circular. So being your best self now only helps you evolve into your best self later, which you have not even recognized, you have not even seen. So loving the conversation. It's a wonderful day. I'm so excited. How were you all days? How was your day, everybody? Did you have a good day? How did the day go for you all? So I want to be able to, again, dialogue with you and have a conversation. So as you're coming in, feel free to say hello, feel free to dialogue, and feel free to like and share. Yeah. So as we're going, let's get right into this subject line. It's a lovely, cool, crisp evening. So we want to get right into it and be strengthened, be affirmed, and go forward. So the first thing is, number one, you have to know your strengths. You can't play to something you don't know. Now, this concept, this thought, this idea of playing to your strengths, it is rooted, and a lot of times we hear it in the athletic part or portion, or even in the business world, or in when we're auditioning, perhaps for theater or vocals. You play to your strengths. You put and it comes out of a strengths based thought, the theory of that. There was two different school of thoughts, which one was like you develop your weaknesses, you try and get your weaknesses together, and another one said no, you shouldn't do that. You should actually spend that strength or spend that energy developing your strength and staffing your weakness. So it's a very hot topic, or has been a hot topic within organizational development, within the business world, even within athleticism. You put your best points up. You put your best foot forward. Even when you're having, when we were doing in music, when we were doing gospel music and had a concert, we put our best songs forward. We put our best leads forward. We did our best demonstration. So we played to what we believed and knew our strengths were. But that requires, the first thing, that you know your strengths. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you bring to the table. You have to know your value. You have to know who you are, whose you are. When you come in the room, what shows up with you? When you come in the room, what do you bring? What vantage point, what experience can you add to a soup? I often used to call, especially in my business thing, that when we come to a table and facilitate, when we're sitting around a cohort, or we're sitting around even a symposium, having dialogue, when we're having all these things, we want to be able to have different flavors, have different views, different experiences, because it flavors the pot, making a much better broth and soup. So but the first thing, you have to know that you're a carrot. You have to know that you are celery, or you're onion, or you are gumbo filet from the saffrasis leaves. Yes. You have to know who you are. What herb are you? Parsley, whether you're tarragon. And each of these herbs serves a different purpose. Each of the vegetables, each of these ingredients serve a different purpose. And it's to balance. And it's to make a better palated outcome, a product. So you have to value who you are. Know what you do. And there's different ways to do it. Some of the easier ways, some of the most common ways that you can do it, one is just asking the closest people around you, what are the things that you value most? What do I bring to this relationship? You should do this in a relationship. Sometimes you'll be surprised. I used to have a group of, this is maybe 20 years ago. I don't want to date myself, but this was a while ago. But even back then, I had an activity where I would sit some of my closer friends or mentees around, and they all knew each other and fellowship together, went on trips together, went to church together, went to musicals together, sang together. But I sat them down, even after all that, and I made them sit at a round table, and each of you, the person to your right, you're going to write 5 things that you love about them, 5 things that you honor about them. And it was always, once it was read, once the people started talking, they were actually amazed, like, I didn't even value that of my own self. And a lot of times that's how a lot of us are. We don't know what people honor about us. Even Facebook, I talk about Facebook. Now, first of all, I'm on Facebook Live, so it's honorable mention. But we talk about the different games, like what is the one attribute you love about me? When I played the game, if you're going to call it a game, or did the activity, the exercise, it was amazing what people honored about me. And not only that, you could see a common thread. Now, I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Woo woo, cheese state, beer state, Jeffrey Dahmer. But I lived in Milwaukee for most of my life. At this point, it's 30 years of my life. And then I was in Atlanta. By the time the games were being played, I had been in Atlanta for a while. So it was good just to see, what did Atlanta say they honored in a thing versus what Milwaukee said was a thing. Were they comparable? What were some of the differences? And then was there anything that seemed to be consistent? And there was. There was some very vital things that people honored about me, that I was just being me. I was just walking around being who I am. And that, though, was a presentation of what I brought to life's table, at my job, in my school, at work, with my friends, with family, all of that, in any relationships. I brought my same self. But you have to know what it is in order to play to it. If you know that you're in a choir and you're an alto, you have a wonderful low register as an alto, when those parts come around that are low, you need to go forward. You need to step forward. You need to know that it's your time to shine. The devastation of not knowing who you are is missed opportunities. How many opportunities are you missing because you don't know that's your cue? Like an actor's on the stage, there's a script, and it has you in your character. But because you don't know that that's your character, that that's you miss your cue to come in. And it may be a leading role, but it means nothing if you don't know that it's you. You show up for rehearsal, you plan, you read over the script, you see all the props, and you still miss opportunities because you don't know who your character is. You have not developed who that really is. You miss, even if you know who your character is, knowing the full breadth. If you watch shows or watch coaching, actors who are coached, their coaches always make them Tell me of your character. Who is your character? Where do they come from? How do they, what are they likes? What are the dislikes? Tell me all about them. And the more you know, the more you can go into that character, the more you can exude that character, the more believable the audience knows that character. It's the same with you. If you are a person of hospitality, knowing that you are hospitality, I do this and I love to have this done and this in order, and I thrive, and my passion is here, my gifting is here, my excellence is here. When you are able to bring that to the table in knowledge, you're able to know that that's your cue. When they're working out events, you know that I need to be over hospitality, or I need to have my hand in hospitality, because I'm going to shine. I'm going to make the dream come together in my area of expertise, SME. Subject matter expert. You need to know what is your expertise. Who are you? You can't thrive unless you know it. That's number one. Number two is actually interesting. It is embrace your weakness. We go back to when I talked about the school of thought, school of theories and school of thought about staffing weaknesses versus trying to hone and build up your weaknesses. But the first thing is that you have to acknowledge and embrace them. I think a lot of times, especially in the church world, in the black culture, in the world culture, in business culture, we have a thing about trying to hide our weakness. We try and shun our weakness. We try and camouflage our weakness. We try and cover up our weaknesses. Now, I'm not telling you that you're supposed to bear all to all, but you have to embrace, I have this qualm, I have this quirk, I have this idiosyncrasy, I have this flaw. I don't do well with managing money. I am not good with being extroverted. I don't like public speaking. What you have to embrace the areas that you are not strong in. And I even challenged, we swapped out the word just so that it didn't sound as bad. It sounded more ear palatable, of areas of opportunities versus weaknesses. But the truth is, the opportunity is to embrace it, is to understand it, and then rationalize how much attention you should give to. But to that area, whether it to bring it up or to staff it or to understand it or to, if you're hot-headed, you need to know how to keep anger management triggers to a minimum, how to mitigate those things when they arise. But understand who you are, understand why you are who you are. Those things are important, both my highs and my lows. Scripture says that God is acquainted with all of our ways. He knows our uprisings and our downsettings. There's a holistic you, and every human on earth has highs and lows. And they tell me, and I'm a believer of it, subscribe to the thought that however high your high is exactly how low the low is, which is talks about the trees, how when you see them standing so high and spread so wide, how high they are is just how deep that root is, how anchored that, how far it goes down. Just like mountain peaks, how when it sits in the sea, when it elevates, however that high the elevation above the sea, know that that same depth is connected beneath. So we have opposing and different parts, but you have to be able to embrace that. You have to know that. You have to understand that. You have to acknowledge that. It is okay. If you're a person that is diabetic, you need to acknowledge that. You need to know that sugar is not your friend, that complex carbs are not your friend. And you need to acknowledge that first before you can do anything about it. You have to wrestle with it. You have to come to grips with it. But it is a part of playing to your strength is knowing your weaknesses. What is not your area of expertise? It's just as important as knowing what your area of expertise is. Today's vernacular would say, stay in your lane. That's what we would say today. Stay in your lane. What is your lane? Drive in your lanes. Get there. Whatever that lane is, and know what is not your lane so that you're not causing wrecks and causing chaos and all those type of things as we're journeying on this road of life. Yes. So number 3, moving right along. Number 3 is know when to use your strengths. Now, this is very unique because, or not as often in my mind and in my experience, talked about as some of the other ones, because we talk about strength and we talk about our area of expertise and knowing and honing those gifts and those crafts, but we don't always talk about this. There's actually a time that you should not be using them. We talk about how you need to turn off your gift or turn off, shut off the phone. Or there is a time when we're playing to our strength. The part of the strategy of playing to your strength is knowing when to reset and rest, when to come back home and go to sleep. Even your body cannot function 24 hours a day at the same height, at the same intensity, with the same effect. Your body starts to become chaotic. You start to have illnesses that will sit up in your body when you're not resting, when you're not getting proper care, by knowing when to exert energy and when to let your energy sit. I had in my undergrad program, there was I went to chaplain, and the chaplain, or went to chapel, and the chaplain said one day, he said, every time, just because you know how to do it doesn't mean that you should be doing it. I'll say it again. Just because you know how, you may have the ability, but it does not actually mean that you should be doing it. God bless you, Wayne Woodson. And it's so important that we understand that there is a time that even though we know how, especially for us that came up in the black church, especially storefront churches, we had to wear 12 different hats. We had to. Like, it was nothing for me to come to church early because I had to open the church. When I got in there, it wasn't clean, so I cleaned it. I vacuumed, straightened out the chairs, picked up the papers, straightened out the pews. I did that. Then I did prayer. Opening prayer, and I'm talking about intercessory prayer. After I did prayer, I had to turn around and be the MC, collect the offering, may have counted the offering, and had to run back out sometimes if there was not a speaker to be the speaker. And it was just our life. And then if we had dinners, we had to be the ones to create what dinners we're going to have. We know it's going to be fish, chicken, or ribs. If the summertime, ribs in Milwaukee. We weren't, it's too cold to barbecue in the wintertime in Milwaukee. But we had to create the flyer, buy the food, prep and cook the food, sell the actual dinners, and clean up. We had to be all those things. So a lot of times, because we had to, I was a drummer, I was the head of the ushers, I did the choir director, I was over YPWW, I did Home and Form Mission, I was also on all these committees. The Lord knows everybody had to be somewhere in the pastor's anniversary committee. We had, so we had all these different things. So sometimes it gets convoluted what we actually are called to do. What our passion is actually thriving on. Because we do all of this church work. We do all of this work. Sometimes even in our community, we have to be mom. We have to be savior. We got to be banker. We got to be the teacher. And so sometimes we don't know what our strengths really are, because we get so good, we become a jack of all trades and a master of none. But what you got to find, whether you take a strengths builder test, they have them. You have the Myers-Briggs that gives you where your strengths lie. There are different ones. Even the five, and I talk about it all the time. Whenever I do coaching, whenever I do consulting, I like to do a battery of tests, a myriad of tests. I give you different tests that shows different sides of you, that even your love language, all of those different things, I like to tie and pull in together. Now, I do make sure that they are valid tests. I just don't take the Facebook test and say that those are valid and concrete. But there are still, even in those there are some algorithms and some things that they actually put together to try and come up with what they come up with. So, but knowing when to use and when to rest, when to go forward and when to pull back, when to let somebody else shine. And a lot of times it comes with our ego. Sometimes we feel like we're being replaced. But you also got to be a part of playing to your strength is knowing your placement in that setting. Because sometimes you are the lead, but sometimes you are the follower. And you've got to know how to be who you are and still be in a different situation, a different holding pattern, a different seat. So in this quorum or in this office, in this room, I'm the leader. I'm the person that drives. I'm the person that needs. But in another place, that strength is not necessary. A hammer is not used for all things. You need a screwdriver. You need there's a whole bunch of different things. If you bring a jackhammer because you just want to hang up a picture, you're going to have a problem. It's a beautiful tool and it is necessary when needed. But knowing where your strength needs to have ebbs and flows, highs and lows. When should it be called upon? When you should recede and be cool, be calm with your gift, with your gifted self, with your passionate self. You can run amok. Not having the diligence of knowing when. So look at all of those, look at that as well. Number 4, acknowledge your growth areas. One thing I think that we don't do a lot of is acknowledging where we've come from, how far we've really come. We're so vested in we need to do this and we got to come up on this and we got to do this and we're pressing to do this and we're moving to do that and we're trying to get this degree and we're trying to start this business and we're trying to write this book that we sometimes don't get a chance to celebrate what we've already done. Playing to your strength is also being acknowledging of what successes, your growth areas. I may not be at 100 in this area, but I remember when I was at 30 and now I'm at 50. That is growth. And once you find gratitude for that, it makes it easier for you to put more effort to get further in those areas. But if you are forever under condemnation, because that's what it is, self-condemnation of the umbrella of I didn't do that right, or I need to move this better, or I need to do that better, you have to find ways to acknowledge, to build that self-esteem, to build that self-confidence, to build who you are, to build where you're going, to build how far you've come. So make sure you take time. Make time to celebrate. If it's every week on a Wednesday at 7 p.m., I'm going to start. It's not going to be mine. But at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, I'm going to write down what I'm grateful that I see myself excelling. Because the more you see it, the more you go to it. Psychologists say that the image that you hold in your mind is the image you go toward, that you gravitate toward, that your thoughts drive to. So if you can imagine and think of the good things and see the good things, see the health and the wealth and the privilege and the abundance of your life, then you'll go and gravitate toward it. And then you'll start speaking it, because what you think, you speak. So when you start speaking it, then your speech will have words that will frame the rest of the world for you, that will actually bring energy back to you, responding to what you put out there. The Bible says death and life is in the power of the tongue, which is the same actual platform and the same truth that we say about your karma and energy. That what you put out there is what you put back. What you speak out of your mouth, energy brings it back to you. So you have to be careful, be wise about what you allow your mind to even think. So take that time to remember and to assess how far I've come. May I only wrote one paragraph. I got a whole book to write. I wrote one paragraph. Celebrate. I got a paragraph. It will give you and fuel energy for you to write a page. Then after you get to the page, oh my God, I've written a page. And it will fuel you. You'll write a chapter and so on and so forth. But you got to have, and they call them incremental milestones. You have to be able to have set goals along the, if the full goal, since we're at the book, is writing a book, you have to set milestones that every day I'm going to commit. And as you commit, you'll see that you're growing. You'll see that it's happening, and it'll fuel you to keep driving and moving forward. And if you fall off the bandwagon, get back on, and get back on incrementally. It doesn't mean that if you were up to writing 5 pages, when you for whatever reason may have happened that it separated you from keep on that goal, you may have to come back and start back at writing just a sentence or writing just one paragraph. You may not be able to write 5 pages the next day, the first time you come back, but you got to be all right with that. But you got to acknowledge where you are, how far you have come, and not be so depleting of your own energy, so self-sabotaging of who you are, of the gift that's in you, of the resources that's within you. Okay? Number 5, we only got two more after this, is play to other people's strength. One of the things that we the business world has come to know, but a lot of us on an individual and a personal level have not particularly always mastered as it relates definitely to gifts. It's the gift of collaboration and the celebration of other people. I may not be the best in one area, somebody else may be. Even Jesus, when he sent them out as disciples to witness and to be who they are, sent them out 2 by 2 because we're stronger together. 2 is better than 1. Okay? And a threefold cord is not easily broken. So you have to be able to understand how to celebrate and play to other people's strength. If I know that I have a client, I have clients that sometimes are a little troublesome. My God. I have been working for the past couple of months since November. I've been working on a project with homeless, rapid rehousing. And the homeless is a different population than what I'm used to. And so I had to lean on the strength of others who had strengths in that area, who this was their specialty. And even, get this, I had some of the same giftings or the same character as the person I'm leaning on, but they had the experience in this specific area. So I still had to borrow their influence, their knowledge, their strength of this area and allow my gift to funnel through them so that the job can get done, so that we can have a success. You got to be big picture oriented. Until I learned how to do it myself, until I learned how to move forward myself, I had to learn how to let my ego come down. With all of my degrees, with all of my knowledge, with all of my everything, that's fine. But I still was lacking in this area, or I still didn't know how to manipulate my gift to make it the most beneficial and efficient in this area. You have to be willing to bring yourself down and play off somebody else. Let your ego come low and be humble and let somebody else shine and be okay with that. It doesn't diminish the quality of you. It actually hones on you to let somebody else shine, stand on your shoulder even. It helps only qualify who you are, the positioning that you have, the security that you have in who you are. That whatever is embedded in you, you should be able to reproduce after your own kind. Sad is the leader that leaves the team organization and they can't function without you because you've not instilled enough into them that they're not dependent on you. Sad is the leader that can't go on vacation and they can't work out a problem. They can't fix something that arises. They got to wait till you come back or call and disturb you. Sad. You've not done your job, but knowing how to play off their strengths, knowing how to pull out their strength, knowing how to pull up their strength, it's a transformational leader is what this called. So you have to be able, as when you're playing to your strength, part of your strength is being able to allocate, to being able to recognize, be sensitive and discerned enough to be able to recognize, I see something in you that can come out, or I see that this is an area that you're better at. And let me step back and let you take the lead in this area because it's the area that you shine. That I'm not intimidated by what you have, but your gift, by what you know, by your excellency, because we're all excellent in our ways. How confident are you to do so? We're talking about playing to your strengths. Because nobody likes a person that is not confident, because it comes out in horrible ways. Cocky and arrogant and all those different things are usually telltale signs of somebody whose self-esteem is not there. Because when you're confident and you don't mind for the next person to speak, the next person to perform, because I need them just like they need me. We're all going to have to get through this together. Right? Right. All right. Number 6 is be mindfully authentic. When you're playing to your strengths, do not forget to be the real you. Because a lot of times we see all the people maybe that are more advanced in our field, more advanced in the way that we would like to go. We look up to them, icons, celebrities, and whatnots. And of course, the world of social media only but exasperates the thought of trying to be more than who you are. Bottom line, right? So, but you have to be able to not lose yourself, lose who you are, your authenticness, your authenticity. You have to be able to let it rain from you or ring out of you. You have to let it emanate from you. You have to let it resound out of you. That when you come to the table, that your thumbprint is not like everybody else. That you bring your unique qualifiers. Because that's the only thing that really is going to separate you from the others. Is your unique quality that you already have. You don't have to borrow it. You don't have to, now you may need to dust it off and learn how it works and learn, because it may be quirky at first. It may be off-putting at first. You may not know how to handle it at first. All of that is fine. But as long as you are there to be able to be who you are, what you were created to do, why you were brought to this universe, why you were brought to this earth, why you are brought to this company, why you are brought to this project, to this family, to this, all of it's orchestrated. But you got to be willing to understand that I have to be me because can nobody else be me? And then we're missing something when I'm not me. Even if I'm learning who me is. Even if I'm learning, what does that mean? I'm evolving as I speak. I'm evolving as I stay here. I'm evolving. All those things are wonderful, but you just got to keep pressing. But bring yourself. Bring all of you in the room. All of you. All of you. Now, of course, be mindful of the you that you brought in the room and make it conducive to the room. You don't want to be offensive, but sometimes you got to offend to get the job done. No, discern when, because sometimes, Jesus walked in the temple and tore the whole front area, tore them all up, turned over the tables. But with reason, with purpose, and with motive and drive, there was a reason that we still honor and celebrate today. Make sure if you're going to tear up stuff, that is honorable. Make sure if you're going to tear up, that we are going to say at the end, well, they needed it. Was a different way to do it. And that's fine. It's okay. Sometimes going against the grain is the way to go. You got to be okay with that. You got to know when that, and take healthy risks. Okay? The last one is separate your strengths from your beliefs. Our own prejudices, our own stereotypes, our own preferences, our own theologies, our own ideologies can hinder our strength. When you can't show love, when you can't be who God created you to be because your religion or your thought pattern or your family teachings orientated to you precludes you from being inclusive, that's a problem. Allow your strength to be your strength with or without your belief system. And sometimes it's hard to separate. It's the reason why we end up in churches and they can't accept you because you got on pants. And so they got to go put on a robe because their belief is stronger than their strength. Their belief is stronger than their gift. Their belief is standing in the way of their love. Do not allow yourself to fall into a pattern where your clique, your church, and I don't care. Because this is a vital thing that who you are. My mother had an experience where she ended up apologizing to so there was a whole group of community of people that, this is what she said, that she was taught to hate because that's what she was taught from a religious standpoint. But you got to have your own understanding, your own recognition from the knower inside to be able to move forward, to be able to know that I can separate. Even sometimes it goes against what you prefer. But if I'm to show love, if that's my gift of hospitality, just because I don't like the outfit you have on doesn't mean I get the right to shut off my strength of hospitality, my gift of hospitality. That is a disservice to the giver of the strength. So once again, it's got a little heavy for me. One is you have to know the strength. If you don't know your strength, it's inadequate to even have this conversation because you don't even know. And you can find out, message me if you need direction on how to find out what your strengths and your gifts are, right? 2, embrace your weakness. It's okay. There's grace for your weakness. Okay? 3, know when to use your strength. When should it rise? When should it rest? Number 4, be acknowledging of your growth areas. Where have you gotten better? Where can you see indications that you have grown? Celebrate those milestones, those small stones along the journey. One adage says it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Okay? Number 5, play to other people's strength. Remember, it's a collaborative effort. No man is an island, comes to mind. You have to be able and be comfortable utilizing other strengths, other people's strength. Okay? 6, be mindfully authentic. That means take attention and make sure that you're not just doing a copy cutter of somebody else, that you've put your print on it. You've put your stamp. Okay? And 7, make sure that you separate your strengths from your beliefs. Okay? Those are the seven different ways that you can play to your strengths. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, like and share. Hit me up and tell me that you loved it, hated it. If you hated it, put that in the private conversation so that I can have a private conversation with you so we can get better. Otherwise, I want to thank you. I want y'all to have a fabulous rest of the evening. And thank you for joining me for this episode of Spiritual Fine Arts. I am Dr. David Glover, and I want you to be blessed forever. Bye. Bye.